Please be upstanding to the Chair and Vice Chair of Harlow Council.
Good evening, councillors and the members of the public. Could we, before we sit down, have a minute's silence for Joshua Jollies, who, as you know, passed away a couple of months ago, and we hadn't got enough of us here at that time to actually pay our respects, so I'd like to do that now, please. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Now, I understand there's councillors who'd like to say a few words for Joshua. Okay, David, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Joshua was born in Florence in 1934. He came to England in 1939 when Mussolini joined Adolf Hitler. His father was a professor of chemistry and worked for ICI and coming to England. In actual fact, he was credited with producing the Teflon coat that protected pilots from fires during aircraft fires. Joshua followed in his footsteps as a scientist and worked in the chemical industry. He set up the first chemical waste and recycling site in Israel for disposal of dangerous chemicals. In 1986, he retrained as a science teacher and taught chemistry in England for over 20 years. He was married to Muriel for over 50 years and they had 3 children and many grandchildren. He was a decent man and always tried to help improve the lives of people of Harlow, and he had friends in both the Conservative and Labour parties. After his second stroke in 2017, he was very proud of the fact that he could still do the Times crossword in about an hour. Myself and Josh have been friends for over 20 years. He will be missed. Thank you.
On behalf of the Labour Group, can I say it's an honour and privilege to be able to speak a few words for a tremendous champion for Harlow. The picture that is behind you, Chair, is actually directly from the 77 exhibition that the Council sponsored last year to celebrate our 70th anniversary. And actually what we did is we found 70 people who came from different areas of life, different experiences with innovation, with art, with understanding and passion. And the thing that brought us all together was our love for Harlow. Josh was one of the 70, and we now have the exhibition in the Harvey Centre, and I do urge all councillors to have a look at that. It's there for 2 weeks, and then it is a portable exhibition, and we hope over the next 12 months we'll be able to take it around the town. On the opening of that exhibition, I had the privilege of speaking, and we directly referred ourselves to one of our comrades that we had lost during this period of time. Anybody who knew Josh and anybody who knew him in this chamber, you could always know you were going to be entertained by Josh. was never a meeting where that gentleman didn't have an opinion on something, and he was very brave to actually say it. And I have to say, to his credit, he would say that even though there may well have been a whip or whatever was wrapped around him. If he felt passionate around him, he would say it because he believed it. And he was a champion of champions over these particular issues. Josh was an ambassador for Harlow. He was very forthright, he was very honest, and he was very passionate for his belief of his town and his community. He was a strong advocate for my 4 colleagues opposite around the aspirations of the Tory party in good times and also in bad times. But he was also an advocate for his culture and for his beliefs and for his community. And he never lost that, and he would always talk up Harlow. He was always robust, but one of the great gifts he had was that he was respected, and he respected other people's views. And there were strong views when I first joined this council between certain individuals from the Labour Council and the Tories, and some of us know who those people are, but he always kept his dignity about them. So he's a champion of champions. He was so strong, he actually decided to become an independent councillor. He disagreed with my colleagues opposite and set up a small group called HIP, the Harlow Independence Party. Unfortunately, it wasn't as successful as his aspirations were. There is an old cliche that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And I have to say, Josh was a giant. He is a strong advocate, and he had great passion for our town and our community. And part of standing on those shoulders is that he gave us our history. He gave us our values. And as we go forward as a new town, 70 plus, we have to remember the Joshes of these worlds, because they were the pioneers. They are the people that made the difference. And Josh made a difference to this chamber, to us as councillors, but also for the wider community. So we have lost a pioneer, but we will not forget the pioneering spirit that Josh brought to Harlow. Thank you very much.
Josh would be very, very proud. Thank you.
Sorry. Can I just say one more thing? I completely forgot because I didn't have my thing. Part of the exhibition is that we have also produced a booklet, which is the photos and the stories. And what we've actually done is we've commissioned one of these. And what we would like you to do, Chair, if you wouldn't mind, is send that to his family from all of us with our love and our respect for what he's achieved in Harlow.
I'm going away for a few days, but I shall make sure that they get it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, next, can I call for apologies of absence, please?
Thank you. Apologies to Andrew Johnson, Shona Johnson, Eddie Johnson, and Clive Souter, Mike Garnett, Nick Churchill, and Russell Perry. I believe some illnesses in the Johnson clan, I'm afraid, at the moment.
Thank you. Any from this side? Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Klempner.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Right. To agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of February and the 22nd of February, can I accept these as correct record? Thank you very much. All right, and again. Yep. Item 4. That's communications from the chair. I'd like to say once again, good evening, councillors, officers and members of the public. It's now my turn to say a few words. The month of March has been quite a busy one. Hertford Civic Dinner, Essex County Council Civic Service, the official opening of the Giver Board at PAH, which was a great honour, plus being able to see the ways of conducting the wards in different ways. Then an evening with the Sea Cadets, which was very enjoyable. Nicholasfield opening day. I was very impressed with the update of the building. That was great to see, just right for Dojo. They will be very happy there. So we've continued with various other visits until my own civic dinner, which in every way you look at it was superb. I thank all councillors who supported the event, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. I thank Lisa, Janet and Emma for all their help and support. And I will be overjoyed in me to be able to present both my charities with their cheques. I still have quite a few engagements, and one more for me, which is sculpture tour towards the end of April. I hope that we get lots of people coming out to have a look at that. And I just hope I get lots of support. Okay, thank you very much. Item 5. There are no petitions from the public. Questions from the public, there are no questions. Item 7. There are 2 questions from Councillor David. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. My first question is to Leader of the Council at the Toal. I've had some upset elderly disabled people ask why Shop Mobility Centre is closed and has been for 6 weeks. On making inquiries, I found it's closed due to a rat infestation. Shop Mobility is a charity and is supported by Harlow Council, but it has spent £2,000 on repairs and prevention measures. However, these have had no success. Can the leader let me know if the council can help solve this problem?
Thank you. The council is actively working with Shop Mobility to resolve the recent rodent problem at John Robson House. Urgent works are currently underway to secure and decontaminate the property. Additionally, the council is assisting Shop Mobility in identifying temporary town centre office space. While the council were successful in securing temporary space within the Harvey Centre, this was considered unsuitable by Shop Mobility and thus the offer declined. While the necessary works are undertaken at John Robson House, the council continue to assist Shop Mobility in exploring other temporary accommodation options.
Thank you very much for that. With its finances dependent on support and 100 plus users every week, many of these people are struggling to go out and have lost their independence due to this problem. I hope the council can expedite this matter as soon as possible. And can we ask you to look at the old building in Market Square that's been empty for some time? The reason that somewhere close to their old building is necessary is because the old gents' toilet is where they store the machines. It's all been done, etc. If they were down in the Harvey Centre, it would be too far away. Thank you.
Yes, we're happy to explore other options. I believe the particular building you just mentioned isn't actually fit for use at the moment, so we can't put them in there just because it's not fit for use for them to go straight in. We'll continue to work on work officers. I know that I've been reassured that we have senior officers and HTS overseeing the work being done to ensure it's done as quickly as possible, and we can get them back into their building as soon as possible. But in the meantime, we'll continue to offer any support and assistance that we can.
Thank you. My second question is to Councillor Danny Purton, Portfolio Holder for the Environment. After taking part last week in the delayed Great British Clean-up, in which many other people took part to their credit, this was to the benefit of our Clean Town policy. However, I noticed the chewing gum in the town, and especially in Broadwalk, is quite disgusting. Does the Portfolio Holder have any plans to deal with this filthy problem?
Well, I'd like to thank David for raising this issue. I'm pleased that the council can support residents groups who want to get involved with litter picking days. and will supply equipment and arrange to take away litter that has been collected up. This all contributes to the Great British Clean-up whenever residents can fit days in. Whilst the council wants to improve Harlow Street scene wherever possible, removing chewing gum can be very expensive, and it's not been one of the priorities that's been identified in our work with Environmental Service Improvement Team to enhance environmental standards. I remain open to ideas, and I will ask the council's officers to look into the costs of providing easy gum disposal points for the busiest areas. And we all know where the busiest areas are. You walk up and down Broadwalk, you can see where most of the chewing gum deposits are. There's no doubt fresh gum can often be a nuisance. Any time accumulated deposits can detract from the street scene. However, I'm pleased to say that since receiving your question, or more particularly since the answer was drafted, I've received an email from the Chewing Gum Action Group, which is a national campaign involving different organisations connected with the issue and chaired by Stefan. They are looking for local authorities to help with their national campaign, and knowing how interested you are in this item, David, I would like to invite you to help me with leading this campaign.
Thank you for that, Danny. I'll be absolutely delighted.
Thank you. Okay. Item 8. Motions and councillors. There's next item 8A refers to a motion to be proposed by Anna. And who would second the proposal? Okay, thank you. Would you like to proceed?
Absolutely, it's my favourite topic at the moment. Okay, I moved this motion here tonight because there's an essential and a critical issue within my ward. We are being faced with the closure of a vital surgery for Harlow in Potter Street in Osler House. Now, while the loss of any GP surgeries is bad, we feel that this particularly impacts us, and the way in which it's been handled, I felt it was really important that us as a council, as community leaders, had our opportunity to discuss this and pass on our concerns to West Essex Clinic and Commissioning Group. I don't think this decision could have been handled in a much worse way. Their lack of consultation, they were told in October last year, has been abysmal. To not tell key partners such as the council and residents until the beginning of March was just unacceptable. To give local residents 4 weeks to move to a GP surgery and then being told they only had 2 months left to be able to use the service. Today we're told that the GP surgeries that they're moving to will no longer accept the patients, that patients are going to be randomly allocated. As I'm sure everyone can understand, this is causing a number of concerns with my residents about how that allocation is going to happen. Is it going to be alphabetical? Is it going to be random? Is it going to be by postcode? There's many families that are worried that they could end up at different GP surgeries themselves. We're urgently calling on the CCG to come and talk to us, again and explore the options, to carry out an urgent study to see exactly what happened and the impact of this. We've got an elderly population in Potter Street. Straight opposite the GP surgery is one of our old people's homes. My board colleagues experiencing some people literally in tears at the idea of not knowing where to go. For them, this was their family surgery. We become reliant on our GPs. We go about issues that we don't want to talk about with people we don't know. We're told by the CCG that this is due to a reallocation of funding and fair funding, and that needs to be looked at. And I know part of it calls on our local MP to facilitate a meeting between us and the Minister responsible for primary care. We'll note that the MP has met themselves with the Minister, but this is called specifically for the Council and other stakeholders to be involved in that discussion to make sure this doesn't happen again. I was really horrified to realise this week that after weeks of conversation, we had a protest, we've had some of the officers from the CCG coming to meet with the council, and they're telling us that there's no options. To find out that the GPs that are in that surgery themselves want to continue. In fact, they want to take on the lease and they want to run the surgery themselves. I'm absolutely horrified hasn't been considered an option. We need to speak out tonight as community leaders and say we are outraged that this isn't acceptable for our town, this isn't an acceptable precedent to be set, that undemocratic organisations such as the West Essex Clinical Commissioning Group can make these decisions with no consultation, to not put the service out to tender and to not even talk to the GPs in themselves. And there's been a lot of changes in the NHS, but we know one of the things was to enable GPs to run their own surgeries. We've got that offer. Stop. Don't reallocate people this weekend based randomly. Communicate properly with the public. Go back to the GPs and ask them to take on the service because they're desperate and willing. We're happy as a council to facilitate these conversations. We want to be a proactive partner, even though we feel deeply let down and disappointed by the Clinical Commission Group. We don't ever want this to happen again. There's a number of questions that need answering by them, and urgently. Every single member of that surgery deserves to know why the GPs aren't being allowed to run it. They deserve to know what's going to happen with their data. The practice currently is saying they're leaving at the end of the month. What happens to their notes? What happens with that move forward? Because we're being told they won't be able to be transferred in time. How will patients be allocated? Will families be kept together? Will sensible solutions be looked at to try and do this proactively? And importantly, how do we provide travel? How do we provide travel for those that cannot get to the other surgeries? Harlow is linked across. We need to be able to not just say, take 2 buses in and out when you're ill. We need to say to those vulnerable residents, that CCG will look after them and provide that travel.
Could you go to
Absolutely, I'm finishing up to my last point, thank you, Chair. And vitally, we need them to stop the misinformation. There's been lots of talk about Harlow Council owning the building. Would you not? It's Harlow Health Centre Trust. And let me say, absolutely fundamentally tonight, we had no plans to demolish that building, and any reports from their minutes were misleading and unhelpful. So I urgently call for them to reconsider and allow my colleagues to contribute.
Thank you very much. Julie, would you like to speak?
Could I reserve my right to speak to hear what my colleagues want to say first?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This month, we should have all been in celebration at the news that Princess Alexandra Hospital was out of special measures. Instead, all councillors are left feeling very concerned about the West Essex CCG decision to close Osler House. The decision came as a surprise to the whole community. There was no prior notice of the closure given to anyone. Patients, user groups completely left in the dark. The decision is particularly disappointing considering the level of investment West Essex CCG has received over the last 4 years. The CCG received £371 million from the government in 16-17, a 6% funding increase on 15-16. Their 18-19 budget will gain a further funding increase of 3%. Robert Halfon has been working on this matter as a top priority and has written to all residents that are affected. In Parliament, our Member of Parliament asked the Leader of the House of Commons for a statement on the actions of the West Essex CCG and called on the Health Minister to write to the CCG and ask them to restore the vital service to residents. In response, the Leader of the House explained that investment in primary care is a top priority for the government, who are funding an additional 5,000 GPs across England. Following Robert's question in Parliament and a letter sent to the Department of Health and Social Care, Robert had a meeting with the Minister responsible for primary care, Stephen Bryan. Robert raised residents' concerns and received a written response from the Minister. This week, Robert spoke again to the CCG and received reassurances that all the money the CCG was spending on Osler House will still stay in Harlow. So why are they closing Osler House? I understand that Osler House has consistently been the most expensive practice to run per head in the country. Yes, some of the funding it received was recently allocated to make, as the CCG claims, distribution fairer for surrounding GP surgeries. But I believe if the CCG was being more proactive with their communications and consultation, we could have headed off this problem a lot
has some serious questions to answer. Why did they not work alongside Harlow councillors, the MP and the wider community to run an awareness campaign to encourage more residents to register as patients at Osler House? And why did they hold up apprentice praise for Regeneration by delaying the plans to agree a new lease? The answer is clear, unfortunately. The CCG has regretfully chosen not to be proactive about supporting the vital work of Osler House surgery and what it delivers to the health needs of local patients. The key principle at stake by this decision is that every resident should be able to access a local GP surgery. The CCG has taken a deeply disappointing course of action. I remain very concerned, as do all councillors, about the impact of the closure, particularly on vulnerable patients at this surgery. The CCG has a moral duty to explain why it has taken this backward decision. Madam Chairman, the priority now is that all councillors, the community, all stakeholders continue to campaign against the closure of Osler House. Thank you.
Waida. Sorry, Waida.
Would you like to speak now, please?
Unfortunately, we all know that Harlow's got a very aged population. The problem is, with this new Health and Social Care Act, a lot of money has been cut. I know Councillor Charles did give some figure, but it's not enough. And a lot of cares, a lot of treatment has been cut. And what worries me is, because in Harlow there's 40% of deprivation among the districts. And what worries me is people are not going to get the care. And how many more surgeries are going to close? And put pressure on our hospital. We already have problems in our hospital. Not enough space, not enough staff, not enough beds. And unfortunately, that is what's happening. All they're looking at, the West Essex CCG is running it as a business. It's a service. We need to look after people. We shouldn't be looking at making profit. And this kind of issues need to be addressed. And I'm pleased our MP has addressed it in Parliament. So hopefully we will get a good result. But I do agree we need to carry on campaigning. And it's very important we do this for the people in Harlow. Thank you.
Mike Danvers, please.
Oh, thank you. What I'd like to say is I just cannot take the crocodile tears from the party opposite. They were the ones that actually passed the act that's actually making these companies make profits. Despite what's said, £120,000 was cut from the budget of Osler House. And they're not my figures, they're the figures that have been provided to us. Look them up if you want. They're not making a profit. We didn't used to have profits in the National Health Service until our dear MP also voted for that very act of the 2012, which Waida has referred to. This is the state of the National Health Service that we're going to find. How many other health centres are going to start closing because of this pernicious act of insisting that people actually make profits out of health? It's quite incredible that we actually hear Halcon pleading for this facility when he actually voted for the very policy that seems in the minds of some to want to close it down. We need to listen to the people of Harlow. We need to be proactive with the providers and actually make sure that we keep this health centre open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As a Cabinet Member for Regeneration, can I share my colleagues' frustration, annoyance and disappointment that actually the Regeneration of Prentice Place took so long because of the health. And while I'm talking of health, can I also, on behalf of the Labour Group, send our best wishes to Andrew and his family at this particular time. I do want to challenge a couple of points that the Leader Opposite has said. the CCG spends over 8% of its budget on Princess Alexandra Hospital. It has done that to get it out of special measures, but therefore there is a consequence of that action that therefore less money has been able to go around for primary care. We also know that the reason why Osler House was more expensive, as my colleagues have said, is because it was a private company, and a private company runs it. A private company runs the weekend services and the late evening services that you can get at Keane's House. So there is more money going out for profit than should be coming in for public services. What we want to, I welcome this debate, and I'm appalled that I'm having to stand up and defend something that is not defendable over this particular issue. We need to send a very clear and precise message to both the CCG as well as our political masters over this. Because this does not just have an impact on local people in Potter Street, it has a wider implication to the wider community. And if we allow this surgery to close, what other surgeries are going to follow? We know that Sydenham House has only a couple of GPs. We also know Barbara Castle surgery has a couple of GPs, and the age profile is indicating that these GPs will be retiring within the next couple of years. We know there is a huge problem about recruiting GPs. So at this moment, we should be concerned as a wide community about the changes that are taking place. Closure has consequences. It affects not only the local people at Potter Street, but the staff. It also affects the infrastructure and the access that is available. And all of us know this. Any of us who go to our own GPs, we know how difficult it is to get appointments at this time. Can you imagine, with now 3,000 desperate people now searching around, how are we going to be able to accommodate these? And this isn't just about the GPs, it's also about the practice staff and the practice nurses as well. I move on to the issue about scrutiny, and I do think scrutiny should look at this from a democratic point of view, because there is only one elected person on the West Essex CCG, and that person is elected from the Essex County Council. And I was shocked to find out that that county councillor is from Southend. Now, I don't know whether or not Essex County Council has some question about the capability or the competencies of county councillors from Harlow, Epping Forest or Uttlesford, but why does it take a county councillor from Southend to go to meetings in a democratic way and speak to us? I'm also concerned that he took part in that decision, and that therefore, did he deny that information to the county councillors of West Essex so they could have done something? Or, and I hope not, those county councillors that were elected last May knew something and did not do anything about it. That is why I'm calling for scrutiny to have a look at the democratic and transformational programme that needs to be able so we can be transparent in the actions of what we're doing. We also need to look at, and my colleagues have talked about the Sustainable Transformation Programme. The Chief Executive of West Essex CCG is the chair of the STP, and that therefore, if we are not consulting at an earlier stage, what confidence can we have as ambassadors for our town and as elected democratic people to actually have that confidence that they're going to be doing the right thing for our community at this time? So this is not just about Potter Street. It is a scandal that the Potter Street people are being affected about this, and we should be calling on the CCG to change their minds. It's grossly unfair, it's not right, and it needs to change. Because if it doesn't change, it is Potter Street today, but it is Sydenham House, it is Barbara Castle, it is other places in Harlow tomorrow. If we care about our community, if we care for our primary care, we need to stand firm with our community and say no to the CCG.
Well said.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to everyone that's contributed to the debate tonight. In our motion, we talk about how we go forward and how we look at this situation that's happened. And I'm not going to dwell too much on what has happened in the past. I think that's something we look at when we've done fighting, and it isn't something I'm going to waste my time with doing tonight, although it cannot happen again. But to tomorrow marks an anniversary. It marks 1 month left of a GP surgery in my ward. 1 month tomorrow for residents to get local care. 1 month for the most vulnerable to be able to see their family GPs. And 1 month less for us to say this. So I'll be writing to the chair of West Essex CCG this weekend and inviting them to come meet with us, come back around the table, stop seeming as if you don't want to review options, as if this is a done deal that you've never bothered talking to anyone about. Come and talk to us. Come talk to the GPs who want to take on this surgery. Let's come together in 2 days' time and hope that in 2 days' time, I hope that in a month from then we will still have a GP surgery. I don't want on the 1st of May to wake up with vulnerable residents, with elderly, with those with learning and physical disabilities not having local service. I don't want the other residents of Harlow whose GP surgeries are already under immense pressure, but under even greater pressure by having to take the load from Osler House. 3,500 people use that surgery. We've got to remember the fundamental principle of the NHS. It's free at the point of use. We pay into it for our national insurance, and it should always be people before profit. So I stand here tonight because I stand here for the 3,500 residents that I have, that have had no voice, that haven't been able to have their say, that are frustrated, that are angry, and that are most of all scared. So I'll be asking the CCG, come back around, re-look at this, because I don't want to lose my doctor's surgery, and I don't think many people do.
Right, councillors, so I'm now right to call for a vote on this. All those for? Against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's carried. Okay, thank you. Right. Item 8B, conditions of the road within Harlow. Now, I'm calling on Councillor Edwards to take this forward. And who is the second of these? Okay, Councillor Ingall.
It's that time of year again, you might say, at the end of the winter, and we all come now concentrate on roads. If you look in the local, whether it be the Star or your Harlow recently, one of the things that everybody's been raising has been the question of roads. I went on the Essex Highways website. This is the Essex Highway website. That happens to be Old Harlow. Each of those dots represents an issue, either an issue with paving or an issue with roads. The red dots are issues around flooding. You can do the same by going over the rest of the town. Now what's also interesting, I've just got to look down on the trade at the moment. Whoops. Excuse me. No, we're not. Never mind. You also go on to a lot of those dots, and what you will see is if you actually tap on them, the frequent response that comes up is this issue has been investigated, risk assessed and recorded in line with our maintenance strategy. Does not require immediate action at the time. The vast majority of them say that. They will be considered for inclusion in future planned works. At this stage, no specific dates or timescales are available for future works at this location. And what's fascinating about that is it gives you no date as to when it's going to be fixed. It also gives you no date as to when the defect was first noted. So you've got no way of knowing whether or not this has been here for 1 month, whether it's been here for 3 months, or whether it's been here for 3 years. You can't tell. You can't tell. Their strategy is in no way is it transparent. It also says, which I find slightly insulting, it says, please note, multiple reports of the same incident will not change the status or speed of investigation. So if a number of people go in and they say there's this pothole here, or there's this problem with the curves here, or the whatever, the fact that a number of people have reported on it won't in any way change the speed of investigation. Now, that, as I said, just happened to be Old Harlow. I could scan across the rest of the town. I could scan across the rest of the town, and you would see exactly the same as far as, going right way across the rest of the town. I now want to bring you on to the photograph that you will have seen on the, because this relates specifically to issues within my particular ward, which is the Toal ward. That, the photograph there of the drain and the covers and the total cracked covers, that relates to Sharpcroft Underpass. That's been like that for months, if not years. People with wheelchairs, etc., use that underpass to try and get across. There's a severe trip hazards on there. There are also, in terms of the other photographs that you will see, you will see examples of, there's another one there. There was also another one which should have shown the breakages in the roads, etc. Now, I went on to that particular, went onto the website for that particular incident, and it says, again, defective surface cover. This has been investigated, so you saw the state of it. This has been investigated, risk assessed and recorded in line with our maintenance structure as not requiring immediate action. But if that didn't require immediate action, I don't know what does require immediate action. And it then goes on, obviously, goes on to say, so it will be picked up, but no specific dates or timescales will be used. So moving back to the motion. There are hundreds of incidents like this. That happens to be curbs, and that happens to be in the underpass. There's hundreds of incidents of potholes, which are endemic. I mean, yes, this time of the year, because of the rain and the snow or what have you, we get some potholes that will open up again. And I'm not denying that some work has to be done.
You have 23 seconds.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, so finally then, people would have had the motion. What we're calling upon is, finally we're calling upon the Essex County Councillors to come and meet with us, to meet with Harlow Council officers and members and undertake a joint review of where we're at and to go on to devise
Sorry.
and to implement an urgent programme of work. Thank you.
Mark, would you like to speak now?
Chair, some of you may remember that I spoke on the issues of potholes in residential streets 14 months ago. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing again this time. On that occasion, the councillors opposite defended their Tory colleagues in Essex by saying we were lucky to have Harlow Tory councillors doing such an excellent job for us in Essex, ensuring our roads were properly maintained and prioritising main roads. It's our main roads are now deteriorating to the point of being almost impassable in places. Traffic reduced to a crawl to avoid incurring bills for costly damage. Cyclists taking their lives in their hands as they choose between thumping through a pothole with the danger of being unseated or swerving in front of motor traffic. Given the poor state of the roads, are in then, and that they've got worse since, I'm not sure lucky is the word. Doubtless this time, because of the state of the roads is indefensible, they'll try other tactics to avoid conservative responsibility. They might try to blame the weather, the beast from the east. So let's consider that. Last time we met, Councillor Perrin said recently, I was still learning the job as Deputy Leader. I'm not afraid to admit it. After all, as a teacher, I believe we should all embrace lifelong learning. So let me take this opportunity to spread a little learning to the Tories before they try to blame the weather. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Winter, it comes every year. And with it, there's often cold, frosty weather and possibly snow. It's not winter that causes potholes. It's not preparing for winter that does it. Yes, the freeze-thaw process makes existing cracks and defects worse. But the existing cracks and defects have to be there in the first place. Please don't insult our intelligence by blaming cold weather in winter for the shocking condition of our roads. We all know it's down to underinvestment. Anyway, I don't want to risk repeating myself, so instead I brought with me the words of professional organisations and the voice of residents of Harlow. Quick Fit estimate the damage caused to vehicles from potholes over the past year has cost motorists £915 million to repair. That's nationwide. What does it mean in Harlow? Well, let me give you an example. Keane from Worley Hook said, "My partner's facing a huge bill thanks to damage done by hitting potholes at the roundabout where Tisey Road joins Southern Way. He tries to swerve round them, but there's too many to miss them all. And they're so big and so deep, they're all over town. It's rubbish." Councillor Purton said last time, "Harlow gets its fair share when it comes to fixing potholes." I hope that you'll be a little less complacent when addressing Keane's concerns this year. The Times last month said the number of cyclists killed or seriously injured on Britain's pothole-strewn roads has tripled in a decade, from 22 in 2006 to 77 in 2016. What does this mean for Harlow? Well, Mark from Nexwell, a regular cycle rider, said, "The increasing severity of damage to the surface of roads caused by a lack of maintenance has a catastrophic effect on the users of bicycles." He went on, "Recently I had an off. It was wet, there was a hole, I went into it, tried to steer out of it. I fell to the curb, got up and looked around to see if anyone was laughing at me. They weren't, so I picked up my bike and rode off." Now look, while we can admire Mark's stoicism, we can also imagine, all too clearly, what could have happened if instead of falling to the curb, he'd fallen into the road. Last year, another Tory councillor, who I don't name because he can't be here, went even further than Councillor Perrin. He said, "Harlow is getting more than its fair share of spending." Come off it, gents. Arguing that Harlow's getting a fair slice of the cake when the cake isn't big enough in the first place simply isn't good enough. I hope the councillors opposite are more understanding of the dangers facing Harlow cyclists this time. Finally, when I met with the private company that Tory-controlled Essex County Council uses to carry out road maintenance, they said, and I quote, "Essex do not budget enough money to safely repair all of Harlow's roads." That's worth repeating. Essex do not budget enough money to safely repair all of Harlow's roads. What an admission.
Okay, Mark, we've got 4 seconds.
Now, I know my Labour colleagues will support this motion, but will the councillors opposite please, for once, show some loyalty to the people of the town that's elected you, rather than to your county colleagues. Stop making excuses. Join with us and send Essex a strong, unanimous message. Fix our roads, fix them properly, and fix them without delay.
I'd like to raise a table amendment, if that's possible.
Yes, okay, Councillor.
Sorry, should we welcome the new councillor?
Yeah. Right back, I can hardly see you. Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, let me just say briefly, and I will be brief, how proud I am to be standing here today, not just representing Harlow, not just representing the Labour Party in Harlow, but representing the residents of Little Parliament and in a relatively short period of time, and it has been more than 2 months, by the way, I've been made to feel so welcome, not just by my fellow councillors, but also by my neighbours and my community. And I just want to say publicly, before I get on to my amendment, and I say this publicly in front of the opposition, in front of the public, and in front of the press, but I will work so hard for residents of Little Parliament and Hare Street, and that is something that as a councillor I promise and I pledge. Now the soccer bit's over, the serious bit. My amendment. So further, this council calls upon Councillor Grundy, the Essex County Council portfolio holder, responsible for highways, to come to Harlow, to view our roads, and while here, make himself available, together with Harlow's Essex County councillors, Councillor Hardware, Souter, Garnett and Johnson, to meet the public, district councillors and other concerned bodies for a question and answer session devoted to road maintenance in Harlow.
I take this amendment because, as you know, I've done a lot of campaigning in Harlow over the last few months, both in my campaign and in others. And the majority of issues that I've spoken to people about have been concerning the Essex County Council. And at the top of the list, the dreaded potholes. I think that the comments that Tony's made about the online Essex County Council system being inadequate is absolutely spot on. And I hope that that's taken on board. Now, these issues might seem small in the grand scheme of global politics, but they matter to people and they matter to local communities. Now, unlike Harlow District Council, Essex County Council have raised council taxes. Now, many of my colleagues, I'm sure, will be sceptical that those extra funds from tax revenue will be spent on fixing the roads in Harlow. Probably some of the opposition members are sceptical too. However, I remain eternally optimistic. Thank you, Chair.
I think we now need a seconder for the amendment. It'd probably be best then to ask the mover and seconder of the original motion whether they accept the amendment. Yeah, please. And that then becomes the substantive motion on which we now debate.
Apologies, Brian. Process. This is just a vote on the amendment, and then we'll go back to the main motion when we are.
What we're doing now, that the movement second having accepted the amendment, that then becomes the substantive motion. So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Making sure Harlow roads are fit for purpose is at the forefront of all councillors' minds in Harlow and across Essex. Local people rely on good roads to get to work, school, and to see their friends and family. Yes, what residents want is action, and tonight I'm going to talk about taking responsibility. All 4 of our local county councillors are working hard to secure additional investment in our local road network. Essex County Council is investing substantial funds into upgrading Harlow's road network. Widening Edinburgh Way, 12 million. Templefields Access Road, 2 million. A414 improvements, a further £4.3 million. In the last financial year, Essex Highways crews repaired more than 6,000 potholes across Essex, of which 600 were repaired in Harlow, as well as resurfacing more than 400 miles of road. Essex, though, have made it very clear that they will continue to respond to the pothole issues in Harlow and across the county. Long-term investment by Essex County Council has proven to be making a difference, although they accept more always needs to be done in local communities. If you look at the latest data from the Department of Transport, which shows our roads and how they are actually improving, you will see a different picture than actually has been painted tonight. And I think there needs to be some balance. Just 2% of the county's A roads now require maintenance, compared to 6% 8 years ago. While the number of B and C roads needing work stands at 2%, that's now down from 8% in the same period. This week, the government also announced additional support for local authorities to deal with pothole repairs. There will be a new £100 million national pot, which will aim to fill 2 million potholes and deal with some of the storm damage. This is on top of the 75 million already given to councils through the Pothole Action Fund, as well as an additional 46 million boost for highways authorities announced just before Christmas. Essex is set to benefit by 2.6 million from the £100 million fund, which will considerably add to the 3 million the County Council already plans to invest from April, specifically in pothole repairs, bringing the total fund at 5.6 million. This money, of course, is timely because it's coupled with the new rapid action crews that Essex are launching across Essex. To be clear about the County Council Capital Programme for road repairs, it covers identified stretches of damaged roads and will eradicate existing potholes along the full length of a road where there are potholes identified in Essex, in Harlow, across local communities. The surfacing will include a mix of treatments, including false resurfacing of surface dressing, according to the needs of the particular location and type of roads. If there are deep potholes, they're going to get out there and they're going to deal with them. The continued government and county-council action is great news, and it's proof that the concerns of local communities are being listened to. Essex County Council have already had a further 30 crews. They had 20, they've now got 30, it's a 50% increase. Both working, those crews are working both on emergency safe fixes and longer-term bigger jobs of permanent repairs across the county. Now, of course, it is still important that we deal with potholes across Harlow and across Essex. The county is putting together an action plan. They've got more money from the government. What I want tonight to be about is responsibility. Essex realise their responsibilities, all councillors included, irrespective of political colour, and all four of our county councillors are aware of the situation. We, of course, will be supporting the motion because I think it makes sense to bring down the Cabinet member for highways, to look at the situation on the ground, and to work not just with the Conservatives, but all councillors, irrespective of their political colour. So that's where we are. I apologise for being the stats man of Essex when it comes to potholes tonight, but I think it's important to also talk about the facts.
Councillor Danvers, please.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I want to focus not so much on the fantastic figures we've just heard, but the method in which the county deals with the public. Because this time, 4 years ago, when I was first standing for the council, I was canvassing in Pennymead. I knocked on the door, and a lady called Leslie Shenstone came to the door and said, yes, I support Labour, but I want you to take up the issue of the cycleway that I take my grandchildren and all my neighbours take their children to school at Cook's Finney School. And I went to look at the cycleway, and it's in a disgraceful condition. No wonder that some of the children had already had accidents and fallen on their faces and scratched their heads and so on. So I took it up with the county. I reported it. I didn't hear anything. I took it up with the county councillor, Mike Danvers. I asked him to look into it. He came back and said, well, he's reported it, but couldn't get any response either. That was 4 years ago. Recently, the same lady, Leslie Shunston, wrote to the county with a 250 signature petition about the state of the same cycleway that's not had any work done on it at all and has got worse and worse, and received the following reply. It's possible that a repair may be carried out at some point, but only if a bigger programme of works is scheduled in the area. And at the moment, no works are scheduled to take place in the foreseeable future. What confidence can the public have that they're being taken seriously? She then wrote back. She couldn't believe that response. She thought perhaps there'd been a misunderstanding. She sent another letter saying, perhaps you misunderstood. So therefore, I would like to request a walk down the lane with your surveyor to explain how they feel the lane and bars do not need repairing. The response she then got, which is almost more unbelievable, said, unfortunately, it's Essex Highways policy not to undertake accompanied visits, so we will not be able to apply your request. We found historically that when inspectors or engineers are accompanied on visits, they take much longer to undertake, which is inefficient. That's the contempt with which the county treat the public, and I've no wonder they've had enough.
Councillor Stefan, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just googled what the phrase, what's the point in a county councillor? And the LGA website said, county councillor was by primary role is to represent their division and the people who live in it and be a bridge between the county council and the community. So I welcome Councillor Vince's amendment and put on the record that I really look forward to this public meeting with the portfolio holder and the named Tory county councillors. And I just wanted said that if they negate on what we just heard and don't attend, it is my honest opinion that they are in neglect of the office that they should have an honour of holding. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Durcan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Before I start, we'll get into in much this debate. One thing I would like to say is not quite James Taylor, Councillor Ingall, but when it comes to winter, spring, summer, okay? Yeah. Get into winter, spring, summer, autumn. Is that it? Yes. Right, Chair. Carrying on with the debate. Right. What I would like to know, I'm 100%, and so are UKIP Harlow, against what's going on out there with the state of roads and in favour of them being maintained along with the pavements. But what I would like to know is the people of Harlow deserve a much better service than what's going on out there when it comes to the state of our roads and pavements. They pay for it, they deserve it. Right? And also, why is it the Labour Party, the administrating party, have all of a sudden brought this up? If I remember rightly, my memory ain't going that bad, but what I'm getting to, didn't they have 3 county councillors last year? So why is it all of a sudden that there's a big finger? Yeah, I agree, it needs to be sorted. But shouldn't they have been the voice for the people of Harlow up until last year when they were county councillors? I know it's Tory administrated, but the majority of the people of Harlow voted for county councillors from the administrating party that should have been representing the people of Harlow. We should all stick together on this, but all I want to know is you should have been the voice in the past, not now as well. But why has it took this long to be all of a sudden become the voice of people of Harlow?
Well, that's ironic, isn't it? Actually, I thought his speech was starting really, really well. But yet again, UKIP simply do not understand the democratic process of this area. The Labour Party were actually in opposition, and if he had bothered to do his research properly, on every budget, the Labour Party put amendments in to provide more money to enable us to try to resolve these issues. And it was the Tory-led administration who voted that down time after time after time. So for him to be hypocritical by saying what we were doing, I can absolutely assure him that when Labour ever gets into power at county, we would sort that problem out. And that is the point that I wanted to come to. Whilst my colleague opposite says he's the stats man, we need to have a reality check. We saw Tony Edwards' pictures, and there's more blobs on that than there are roads, which tells you that we have a serious and significant problem that is affecting the wealth and health, wealth and well-being of people today. And this has not been something that's happened today. This has been going on consistently for years, and it's not about repairing the tarmac. It's actually getting underneath the road to understand what is breaking at those particular areas at the moment over those issues. Harlow Council, under our previous leader, some brave decisions around when the County Council turned off our lights. We made a decision to fund those lights to come back on. Our former leader, when a decision was made to reduce police numbers, which caused concern about crime over it, this administration paid for more community staff. I think the time has actually come to talk about what is the reality and what is the need of Essex County Council, and should we do something more radical by coming together collectively and saying, actually, we can do a better job than you. Because we did it on lights, we did it on police. So if they give us the money, they give us the resources under a Labour leadership, we would sort this problem out, and we would make this place safe to walk, safe to drive, and safe to cycle. The Tories can't, Labour can.
Can I ask if anybody else would like to speak? No? Okay, can I refer back to you, Tony, please?
Can you have the screen back on, please? The reason I want this on is just to, while I'm talking, is just to go and just show more and more of the dots that we've got here in Harlow, because all of these represent different places where we've got it, and it goes right the way across the town. There are thousands and thousands, hundreds and thousands of incident issues which need to be addressed. And what this comes from, I would argue, it comes from when the town was first built. We know that in terms of some of the stuff, it was concrete roads, and some of the curves were laid on top of the concrete roads. And here we are years later, and we've still got those endemic problems which are still there. So yes, Harlow has, like everywhere else, the effects of the winter and the problems to deal with, but we've also got a whole lot of other issues which have never been dealt with properly. And surely, in our 70th year, one of the things collectively we need to be going back to the county council and to the government and saying is, look, we need some investment in this town to actually deal with these really underlying problems, because otherwise all that's going to happen is we're going to be patching over, and with problems repeating year after year after year. And we also need to go with some of these long-standing problems like the one I showed on the underpass, which have been there for months and years. The roundabout, which I believe the little roundabout down the road, which at long last something's going to be done about. It's been there like that. That's been there for about 4 years. We've got the one down the way here. We've got bricks all over it where someone's gone into it. That's been like that for months and has not been addressed. We've got flooding on the roundabout up there as you go out around where the square used to be. We've got a whole lot of issues in this town which have to be addressed. And they have to be addressed by the county council. And I welcome what Joel said in terms of let's meet and go to the county council. But we need to be pointing out to the county council that, as well as whatever you may say about the amount of money that's been made available, has Harlow had its fair share or Harlow not had its fair share, what we have to be saying is there are specific problems within Harlow because of the way that the town was built which need addressing, and they need addressing now, and they need addressing urgently. So thank you.
Now can we come to vote? All those in favour, please. Yeah. All those against? No. Any abstentions? No. That's passed, thank you. Okay. Item 9. This is for the local plan. Could I call on Councillor Purton to proceed? And do we have a second of these, Councillor Purton?
Thank you, Chair.
Who's it?
Second.
Okay. Thank you.
Today, in moving this recommendation, is a milestone for the future of our town. And everyone can be relieved, I'm not talking about Brexit. The future of our town and our community. This local plan sets out a path to greater prosperity, homes, jobs and better transport. Of course, we must always be conscious that we stand on the shoulders of those who designed the town and then those that actually built it. We are fortunate that the best features of Harlow are to be carried on in a contemporary way through our Garden Town status. Endorsed and funded by the government, the Garden Town Board, which I chair, now has an operating director that's carrying forward all the different work streams that relate to the development of the Garden Town project. This status could not have been achieved without the support of our neighbours, our neighbouring authorities. Epping Forest, East Herts, Essex County and East Herts County are also directly involved. Through this cooperation, I'm pleased to relate that officers from all these authorities are working together in work stream groups to carry forward important tasks. documents before you tonight for approval are the product of an enormous amount of work by members of the local plan panel and the dedicated staff of the forward plan section and more generally the technical staff of the whole authority. I would therefore formally move on behalf of the Cabinet the recommendations A, B and C on page 23 of the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Would anybody like to speak now?
Me again, Madam Chairman. The local plan is one of the most important documents produced by Harlow Council. It sets out the vision for future infrastructure and housing requirements that will be delivered in the planning period. This particular local plan, which defines the future building requirements up to 2033, has the potential to be one of the most radical blueprints seen since Sir Frederick Gibbard completed the town's master plan in the 1940s. The truth is that this local plan is let down by administration's rush vision for infrastructure and a lack of consultation with residents. Just look at housing. The administration's plan for housing is based on delivering 9,200 dwellings during the course of the local planning period. The objective assessment of housing need said that we are only required to build 7,400. The strategic sites supported by Labour in Harlow and neighbouring authorities that border us are at a very high risk of placing unmanageable strain on our local infrastructure. Because of the administration's poor negotiating strategy, Gilston to the north of Harlow will not realise the true number of dwellings that could be built on that site during the planning period. We support more housing to the north of Harlow, where it is sustainable with the right infrastructure to do so. We oppose the other strategic sites. The east of Harlow strategic housing site in Old Harlow is deeply controversial. This site will alter the fabric of Old Harlow's village community in Churchgate Street for good. Current infrastructure will not be able to cope for the 2,600 dwellings projected to be built on Harlow's side of the strategic site to the east. The council also considers plans, which I have been shocked by, to close Hobbs Cross Road. It is madness even to consider this closure. Cutting off Hobbs Cross Road at the bottom of Churchgate Street will create chaos at peak times. Plans also to build on Jocelyn's playing field, which is pretty much landlocked, are completely absurd. Let's look at infrastructure. The administration plans to promote a modal shift from car to other modes of transport. In particular, nobody would disagree with this plan in principle. The north-south, east-west sustainable transport corridors that have been drawn up in the current local plan for buses would run in line with the current road network. So my question is, how can we practically, given there's a large lack of space on our avenues, could we conceive a scheme and deliver it, but there's very little space and additional capacity to do so? Although I welcome plans for a second river store crossing at River Way, a plan to accommodate an access route for the strategic housing site to the east of Gilden Way will place even more pressure on the already congested road network in Old Harlow. The local plan could also run risk of legal challenge. Other local authorities are facing this problem. Epping's local plan has been halted by a legal challenge. What contingency plans has the council put in place for legal challenges on its own local plan? The other key factor in this debate tonight is confidence. Councillors opposite haven't displayed authoritative leadership throughout this process. If we are to secure inward investment, bring more business opportunities into the town and meet residents' expectations on modern living, we need an administration confident in its ability to articulate a better future for our town. The administration's hesitation and lack of ambition for Harlow has surfaced through its continued opposition to allow full and open consultation with residents on the local plan. They have opted for a Regulation 19 process meaning residents will not be able to question where strategic sites should go, but being forced through by the councillors opposite. The local plan matters because it signals a major expansion of housing in our town. We all are afraid the town itself is approaching the scale of a small regional city at the end of this planning period, if these plans go ahead. Whilst it is important to build more homes, including the right mix of affordable dwellings, if we are to rush ahead with an ill-thought-out infrastructure plan, Harlow will not be able to capitalise on the regional economic opportunities open to us at this critical juncture in our town's history.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Yes, please.
I want a bit of a role tonight. I wasn't going to speak, but actually Joel just reminded me that I just wonder what the Danny Purton of 1940s would look like. And how did that person manage to get through the vision of what a new town would look like? But we now come 70 years on, and that is our moment, that we are now ready to take that next step into the future. And like in the 1940s, there would have been many challenges, many criticisms, many people who said, not in my field or my backyard or whatever at those particular times. But leadership is about having the vision, having the ambition, having the drive and the determination, but more importantly, being able to take key partners, our community with us and actually understand it. Because this is not about a new plan for a new town. This is about how we support the current town to enable it to develop and open up. And as the Cabinet Member for Regeneration and Enterprise, I'm very excited about this because it's about the economic progression of what we want to do to enable our community to grow and prosper. And this is not just about houses, it's about new jobs, it's about new opportunities, it's about new education, it's about a new hospital, it's about new homes, but it's also about a new town centre. We have got the opportunity to make this town either Harlow as it is or a wider Harlow. But we have to have that ambition, we have to have that drive, and we have to have that determination. They had it in the 1940s, and one of the great things about the exhibition of the 1770, which I talked about earlier on, is people came to this town with hope and ambition, and they made it. They made it successful. And this is the next stage of that journey for all of us. So I commend my colleague with the Cabinet Member for his bravery, his energy, his commitment and drive. And I hope that everybody can actually come on board. We will disagree, and that is absolutely fine. That is democracy. But if we really believe in a town for the future, then we believe in this plan, and we take it out, and we make sure that we can truly deliver it. Thank you.
Councillor Carter, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As my colleague has already pointed out, this is not a plan for consultation by the people of Harlow, so they can actually comment on where the future policies may go. It's merely a consultation about the process. Is the plan sound? For example, whether it sufficiently plans for Harlow's housing, infrastructure and employment needs. Let's have a look. On page 73 of the agenda, paragraph 4.9, it says, the district will provide 9,200 dwellings over the local plan period, with the intention that at least 30% of these will be for affordable housing. This reflects the objectively assessed housing need and the viability study, as required by local policies. These new homes will be provided within the administrative boundary of Harlow. That's 9,200 homes, 30% affordable within Harlow. Moving on to page 96, paragraph 7.3, report says the SHMA calculates the OAHN for the district, including affordable and special housing requirement. However, in order to contribute to meeting the district's affordable housing need, additional housing above the OAHN has been proposed. That's additional housing above the OAHN. Whereas paragraph homes reflects the OHN. So which is it? Does the OHN indicate 9,200 homes or not? Will the inspector view these contradictions as sound? On the same theme, we move on to page 174 of the agenda, paragraph 14.36. The SHMA 2015 indicates there is a need for all 13,600 affordable dwellings over the local plan period. Specifically for Harlow, the affordable housing need is 3,400 affordable homes. So assuming we are talking about 9,200 homes built in Harlow, and 30% of which are affordable, that comes to 2,760. So how do we arrive at 3,400? How sound and reliable are these figures? And I return to section 4.9, which says all these homes will be built in Harlow. Well, it's fairly obvious that the plan only covers Harlow, albeit in the context of the OHN objectively assessed housing need and the duty to cooperate. But at the local development plan Toal, which has already been alluded to, on the 23rd of August last year, and I quote, Councillor Purton said it accepted that Harlow was not able to meet the social housing obligation within the town and would have to be met by developments in Epping Forest and East Cars. And then in November, at the same panel, and again I quote from the minutes, officer said that the final figure of the percentage of affordable housing was close to being finalised and was expected to be around 10%. It was recognised that recent planning applications in Harlow could not meet this level of provision and be viable. However, other developments in the SHMA could support 40% affordable housing and could make up for Harlow's shortfall. The importance of ensuring that Harlow residents could be placed in social housing near to Harlow had been recognised. So when did this down-scene conversion, being able to build all the properties in Harlow, emerge? If there was that much concern weeks before the plan was presented to Cabinet 2 months ago, how could anyone believe or trust the plan before us tonight? Is that sound? I think not. As my colleague also alluded to, we have the sustainable transport corridor north-south and east-west, which is highlighted on page 77, which I see you all have in front of you. When this corridor was first moved, it was a broad brush concept sweeping across the town. Now we get to the actual plan to realise just how difficult it is to impose a segregated priority strategic bus route through the town on top of the existing road infrastructure. How does it get from the housing site east of Harlow to the west? To Newhall, down the 414 and then First Avenue. So where on First Avenue are you going to squeeze a strategic priority bus route? Oh, why not put all buses in the existing bus lanes? That'll be a really significant priority route. Then there's the route from the town centre to the town station and onto Gilston Park. Just chop down a few hundred trees, realign Fifth Avenue. Fine.
Would you talk about winding up in a minute, please,
But how do you get a stable strategic bus corridor across Edinburgh Way roundabout without causing massive disruption? Sound, realistic, achievable? Good luck with that one. So are the housing numbers justified by the OHN? Are these numbers sound? And can they build all the houses in Harlow?
Thank you. Right. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Right. Okay. Now would you like that now?
Thank you, Chair. I know this isn't the first time that this document has been discussed in the Council. I know it's a hot topic over a period of time, but I think it's really important today that we look at the local plan and the consultation for this to go out and hear what residents have to say on the process and how we move forward with the local plan. So I'm really pleased that we'll be in place tonight to be able to give local residents that opportunity very soon and give them the time to do that and hear what they have to say. Quite often we get caught up in this little bubble, it's just us, and we forget that very much what we're doing, everything we do here is for the town, for everyone in Harlow and for future generations. Harlow was a bold idea as a new town. It was built over existing villages and there was a lot of process at the time. A lot of times said it could be done done, how we cope, how we have the resources and the infrastructure. But look where we are today. We've just celebrated the 71st anniversary of Harlow. We're in a fantastic place. I've spent many times over the past few months as a public leader meeting with different stakeholders and talking about what an important place we're in for Harlow. We've got exciting projects coming up with Public Health England moving, the Enterprise Zone thriving, and many of our schools and colleges to be proud of. We're growing as a town. It isn't a place, we're not in a place where we can say no more and none around us. It's to look at how that is done and ensuring that proper infrastructure comes with new housing. We need new housing, but we need the roads and we need a new junction to the motorway, and we need to look at a northern bypass that will support the housing over the motorway. Most importantly, we need a new hospital. We're in a place now where Prince Alexander can't cope where it is. With these new people, we're going to need our GP surgeries, and closing one is not going to help within that situation. We're in a really important place where we need to look at the skills and the infrastructure for Harlow. This is a bold vision to look forward. And sometimes being bold isn't always popular. Sometimes it's hard to stand up and say, we think we need to do what is best for this town. But we are a strong administration, and we will do that. Our leadership has shown in developing this plan and working with our partners and our councils around, even though we may not always agree politically, we've been able to work strongly together. It's fantastic we've managed to secure so much funding around a garden city and the principles of how the expansions will look. Because building new homes needs to fit with the ideas of Harlow. It needs to look at green lawns and different areas that we so much value in all our neighbourhoods. So I think this is a really exciting time to go ahead. Harlow is at a crossroads right now. And we stay as we are, and we get on okay. Or we be bold and we take big steps forward. We say we're serious partners in the area, that we're a serious economic growth region within the London, Stansted, Cambridge corridor, that we say to business, not just in the UK but across the world, come here, come to us. We'll provide you with good quality housing, good quality education, our roads will be up to scratch, and so will our railways. There's a lot of things that we need to do to make sure this happens. And there's a lot of steps.
I'd like to make a few points about how we get on with and how we negotiate. Now, as far as the transportation aspects of this report are concerned, I'll be honest with members. We mainly come from the county council. I don't say that because I'm looking to make any, insulting remarks about the county council, but I don't think they're bold enough about a step up in transportation in this town. But unfortunately, they are the highway authority, and their views are reflected in this plan. Personally, I've got my own views about what should be in this plan as far as transportation is concerned. They're much bolder than the county council. But the thing is with this plan, it's not a final plan, it's a draft plan. And all these local plans are continually evolving. They're a moving feast. They never still, the figures have been raised. To be honest, the government's still changing the figures every few months. The figures get changed. They themselves are moving. But the main thing the main disagreement I have with the county council on transportation is not just about the transport corridors, and I agree with Councillor Carter some of his criticisms. I've got my own criticisms of what is proposed. It's not future enough. But the main thing I would like support from the other side on, which I've managed to get Herts County Council on board with, and Herts County Council are much more sympathetic to the transport problems in Harlow than Essex are. Herts are still keeping on the table the prospect of a northern bypass. It's shown, I go along and take part in the A414 working group with all the Herts County districts and Herts County Council, and they've included the northern bypass of Harlow in their plans for the 414. We should encourage that support. We should also encourage Essex County Council to change their mind, which is, there may be sometime 50 years' time. No, we need it earlier than that because we need it to solve a lot of the transport problems of Harlow. So let's work together. And, there's not as much opposition as the other side try and make out. I went along to a meeting in Churchgate Street, right in the heart of Councillor Charles' ward, and had a meeting with the Churchgate Street Residents Association, and actually they were interested not in laying down in front of bulldozers, but actually getting involved with talking to developers about what the developments could mean for them. And that's what we need to do. We need to involve residents in consultation about how all these plans are going to be developed and what role they can play in that consultation. Let's be positive, not negative.
Chair, point of personal clarification. I attended the meeting.
That is not a valid rule.
I attended the meeting.
What
And
is
it's regulation. It's regulation.
What is this?
Can we just have a moment's quiet?
Personal clarification is clarify what the councillors previously said. He was
He
not
hasn't
saying
said
what
anything
Councillor
about
Charles
Councillor
said.
Charles.
Okay.
She said it was in his ward.
Okay, this... Yeah. Have you finished, Councillor?
Yes. We were all right.
Okay. At that point, may we come to the vote, please? All those in favour? Okay. All those against? And abstentions, please. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we now move on. Items 9, B and C.
I will read both those items, Chair.
Councillor Toal, you're going to move those, yes? And who second that, please? Okay, thank you. And can we agree to take those on block?
Yes.
Yeah? Everybody agree? Okay, thank you. Right, item 10. There are no questions from the public. Oh, okay, I missed that bit. Okay, I beg your pardon. I'll start again. Item 10, reports of officers, there's none. Item 11, minutes from the Cabinet and Committee meeting. Is that noted? Thank you. Any matters of urgent business? No? Okay, I call the meeting closed at 2 minutes past 9.